Hello there, and welcome to part 3 of What If Vader and Starkiller Killed the Emperor and Ruled the Galaxy. If you have not seen either of the first two parts, I would highly recommend watching them first before you watch this one, because I'm not doing a recap. You have to watch both to understand. You gotta watch the whole story. This series is gonna be a lot like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. You have to watch every episode to understand what's going on. There ain't no filler in this series. So, also I should probably mention, I didn't mention this in the second episode, this is a purely audio series. There's no imagery. Well, I mean there is, but it's really not worth your time and very boring. It's just like one picture over and over and over again. So it is purely audio. This is probably a series that's best for when you're stuck in traffic, you're laying in bed, or you're doing some work and you just need something to listen to. So there's no real visuals on it. It's just pure audio. And we will be using things from both canon and Legends, depending on how good I think it can impact the story, and if I think the characters are worthy of being in this story. You will not see Rey or Kylo Ren at all in this series. But that doesn't mean you couldn't see characters like Ahsoka, Maul, Hondo, and characters like that, two of whom are already in the series if you have been paying attention. So, without further ado, let's continue this story. We open back on Coruscant as all the Imperial leadership stands before Emperor Vader. The Dark Lord then motions for Galen Merrick to step forward before the Empire. "This is Starkiller," Vader announces. "He is the new enforcer of the Galactic Empire. An order from him is an order from me." Galen turns to the Empire as Vader continues his speech. "The Empire is on the verge of complete peace and stability, and now we may achieve it." "With all due respect, my lord, what is to become of Project Stardust?" Tarkin asks. Vader is silent for a time, although we can clearly see he's angered about it. "The technological terror you call the Death Star is a waste of resources, and a massive target of attack for any form of rebellion." "On the contrary, Lord Vader, the Death Star will allow no such rebellion. Besides, it's nearly completed. By getting rid of it, we would be wasting resources far more than if we completed it." Before the argument could continue on, another voice entered the debate. As Vader and Tarkin look over to see the voice, we see that it is none other than Grand Admiral Thrawn. "I, too, am of the disapproval of the Death Star. However, perhaps some good could come of it. We can hide it within Chiss space so that no rebellious force can take it. When we need it, we can employ it." "Starkiller and I can handle any rebellion, Grand Admiral," Vader boasted. Thrawn shook his head. "Perhaps a small planetary force, but not a galaxy-wide military. Perhaps, should the threat emerge, it could be beneficial." Sick of the debate, Vader finally caves and allows the construction of the Death Star to continue in Chiss space. We then cut to after the meeting as Tarkin and Thrawn move away from the main group. "You aren't bringing the Death Star to Chiss space for the Empire, are you?" Tarkin asked. Thrawn hardly seemed fazed. "You are correct, Governor Tarkin. I believe we can use it to save this Empire." "You mean Lord Vader?" Tarkin asked. Thrawn nodded his head. None of the mentioned senators had made any signs of criminal activity, and the last place Emperor Palpatine was aboard Darth Vader's Star Destroyer. "Both Vader and Palpatine are Sith. It is in their nature to lie and betray one another," Tarkin pointed out. "Vader as Emperor will create problems if he only did this for the power," Thrawn admits. Tarkin nods his head in agreement. "He has no political experience, and leaves it to me and Chancellor Amida to do the work for him. Vader is a skilled tactician and planner, but he is a warrior through and through, Thrawn replies. Tarkin goes back to the original question. Why are you bringing the Death Star to your region of space? If Vader refuses to wield it, and if he is indeed a fraud, then we will have a weapon to use against him, Thrawn explains. Tarkin nods his head, liking the sound of this. Very well, Grand Admiral. I will keep in touch as I look more into this. We cut to the chambers of Galen Merrick as he sits in the middle of the floor, deep in meditation, once more as his lightsaber disassembles before him. However, we can see there is a look of great conflict upon his face. The words of Ram Koda, Shak Ti, and now Obi-Wan Kenobi all echoing from within his mind. Vader thinks he's turned you, but I can sense your future, and Vader won't always be your master. I sense only me. You are Vader's slave, but your power is wasted with him. You could be so much more. Poor boy. The Sith always betray one another, but I'm sure you'll learn that soon enough. If you define yourself for your ability to take life, the desire to dominate and possess, then you have nothing. Your master used you as the pawn he denied himself to be, used you to do the work he didn't find necessary, when in the end it's the most important. Your master denies you the freedom you deserve, and yet you choose to stand with him. As long as you tell yourself you are trapped, you will never truly be free. What was this pattern? Why did every Jedi he faced, with the exception of the mad mechanical Kaz Imperatus, tell him of a future where he was free? Each one believed Vader would betray him, or that his destiny lied elsewhere. He remembered the moment Vader arrived on Alderaan. He couldn't have paid any less attention to his student. In fact, today was the first day since then that Vader had even not acknowledged his student's existence. Had it not been for him, Vader would have stood no chance against the former Emperor, and yet his master seemed to have forgotten that rather quickly. For the first time in over a decade, Galen's mind was filled with conflict. Something told him that the Jedi's messages were not coincidences, but there was no way he could stand against Vader, and now the full might of the Empire. All three Jedi were dead now, and Merrick was left answerless. He wanted to see where this pattern of Jedi was leading him to, and if his destiny truly pushed him away from Vader. We cut to the rogue Shadow as it flies onto the planet of Nur and lands onto the Fortress Inquisitorius, where Galen Merrick walks into the Fortress Dojo, overseeing several Imperial Purge troopers sparring alongside several Inquisitors. Suddenly, one of the blast doors opens, and we see one of the Imperial High Inquisitors, who we know to be Inquisitor Jarek, walk up to Starkiller. Lord Starkiller, it is an honor to finally meet you, he says in his most welcoming tone. However, we can tell that it's all an act to appear honorable. Now, what can I do for you, my lord? I want to see your list of all known surviving Jedi, Merrick explains. Jarek nods his head and motions for Galen to follow him. They enter a chamber as Jarek activates a holoprojector listing off various surviving Jedi, including figures such as Yoda, Ahsoka Tano, Quinlan Voss, Thulm, Caleb Doom, Cal Kestis, Das Janir, among many, many others. Padawan Tano has been spotted by Imperials, however none are able to pinpoint her exact location, given the fact that she takes them out of the fight immediately after. Can we locate any of the others? Galen asks coldly. Jarek looks through the recordings before shaking his head. Unfortunately, we cannot. Is there a reason you need to locate more Jedi? I just want to make sure they can't rise up against the Empire. That's all. We cut to Bail Organa's ship as Ahsoka Tano's A-Wing fighter arrives next to Bail's shuttle. Both dock at an abandoned medical frigate from the Clone Wars and land. Bail gives Ahsoka a hug the moment they meet, but Ahsoka can instantly tell that he is very shaken. Senator, what is going on? Bail hesitates in telling her about Obi-Wan, remembering their close bond during the war. Emperor Palpatine was assassinated. The death was blamed upon me and my friends. The Empire attacked us on Alderaan. We're now on the run." "But if Palpatine's dead, then who's leading the Empire?" Ahsoka asked. "His enforcer, Darth Vader, now rules the Empire as Emperor, although Governor Tarkin oversees all military and regional services, while Chancellor Amida runs the Senate." Ahsoka looks worried at hearing of a new Sith Lord being Emperor of the Galaxy. "Actually, there's another reason I came here," Bale admitted, as he motioned for Leia to come over. Ahsoka walked up to the girl and shook her hand. "I don't believe we've met." "My name is Leia." "I'm Ahsoka Tano." Bale smiled softly as he saw the two introduce each other, although he was still clearly nervous about telling Ahsoka of Leia's abilities. "Leia is gifted with the Force." Ahsoka paused and looked at Bale with a look of surprise, yet as if she could tell. "I thought I could sense the Force was strong here, but I couldn't be sure." Bale continued, "The Empire sent one of their dark Jedi after her. We were nearly killed, but we were saved by your old friend, Obi-Wan Kenobi." Ahsoka looked shocked to hear the name once again, since she believed him to be dead. "During the initial purge at the end of the Clone Wars, I helped him and Master Yoda escape the Sith and go into exile. I never said anything to keep them both safe." "I understand. What happened to Master Kenobi then?" Ahsoka asks. Bale bit his tongue and his eyes sorrowed. At this moment, Ahsoka knew what had happened to her old friend, and she too felt sorrow. "Ahsoka, Leia is not safe with me on the run, and her abilities are growing fast. I need to ask you if you could maybe take her with you? Show her the ways of the Force?" Ahsoka hesitates for a time before responding. "You know I'm not a Jedi anymore, Bale." "I don't need her to be a Jedi. I need her to be safe." Finally, Ahsoka broke and nodded her head. "She can come with me." We cut back to Tatooine, where Luke is being guided over to a table where Melch and the other members of Hondo's crew are sitting around and drinking. Hondo introduced the crew to Luke and welcomed each, either willingly or if Hondo forced them to. Finally, Hondo announced the reason that they're on Tatooine. "My friend, our client is here." "Client? But you said you were pirates," Luke asked. Hondo winked at the boy before walking over to a young woman wearing a cloak. Greetings, smuggler. I come with your mission."
"And I am ready to hear it, madam."
The lady continued without a trace of emotion. "My master discovered a relic of great importance to him on the planet of Malachor. He has since gone missing. I need a crew to locate him and help him gather the relic."
"And what is our pay exactly?" Hondo asks.
The woman ponders the question for a moment before answering. "Let's start at 200,000 credits and discuss it with my master when you bring him back alive." Hondo's eyes widened at the sounds of such profit.
"You've got yourself a deal, madam. Where shall we meet you when we deliver the boss man?"
"Mimban," the woman responded. Hondo nodded and shook the woman's hand.
"You've got yourself a deal, madam."
Once the lady left for a drink, Hondo returned to his crew.
"We've achieved profit!"
The crew began to cheer, although Luke stayed out of it, still very much confused by everything. We then cut to Darth Vader's throne room, which is rather different from Palpatine's. Far more empty, with darker colors, a Bacta tank in the corner, and several training droids deactivated. The doors open, and we see Starkiller walk inside, as Vader turns to meet his apprentice, who bows before him. "I sense great conflict within you, my apprentice," he stated. Merrick initially tried to deny such emotions, but felt his master within his head, and he knew he couldn't lie. "I was fearing you had little use of me, master. You hardly seemed to remember after I existed after Alderaan. Kenobi was a Jedi deeply tied to my past. Killing him was a dream long come true for me. Use your fear of being rejected as a source of power, apprentice. Your pain to not be forgotten leads to the commitment of pleasing me, which leads more power for you." "I understand, my master," Merrick stated. Vader continued. "Now that you are publicly in service of the Empire, and an official leader of the galaxy, I have an offer for you. Of course, my master. When I was an apprentice, my master gifted me with a world of my own in Mustafar. Now I offer a world of your choice, a place to yourself, to hone your skills and strengthen your resolve when not on missions. Galen thought for a while, before the flashing memories of Vader killing his father on Kashyyyk entered his mind. Kashyyyk, he stated. I wish for Kashyyyk to become my world. The world where your training begun. A wise choice. You may go there now and do as you please. Galen nodded as he bowed to his master once again. However, as he began to leave the room, we can see that there is a great deal of concern on his face. We cut back into the throne room where Vader turns to a holo projector and activates it, revealing a young Imperial agent. Shira Bree, report on your latest mission. We see Shira cut down a rebel operative using a lightsaber before she looks back at Vader. Master, I have just finished handling the mercenary force on Balmorra. I'll be returning soon. See to it. We have denied your training for far too long, apprentice. And that is where this part ends. Alright, so I know this episode wasn't the most action-packed episode. It was a lot more world building, it was a lot more character development, but it was used mainly for setting up more plot points to come down the line, so we can have more action-packed episodes. We definitely had some more obscure characters from the EU, notably Shira Bree and Inquisitor Jarek, who maybe aren't as well-known EU characters, but, I mean, if you know who they are, awesome, you know what I'm going for. And if you don't know, you should definitely look them up. They're both really, really cool characters. So, yeah, again, with this episode, I just wanted to I wanted to use this one to kind of set up the future for clarification. As for clarification, both the Inquisitors having a holo list of all surviving Jedi, as well as Palpatine donating Vader Mustafar, both come from the canon Darth Vader comics, and both were ideas that I wanted to continue in this series. This time, Vader is giving Galen Kashyyyk as his own personal world. And refresh my memory, but isn't there a Jedi still in exile on Kashyyyk who was mentioned on that Imperial holo list? Huh. Maybe that'll turn out to be something in a future part. But yeah, I'm really excited to get on to the next episode and continue this series. This has been Dimon360 signing off. Have a great day, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye.